Hello, good day once again. Grade 12s. We continue from where I ended the first part of the elements of computing. Just to refresh on what we discussed earlier on, we looked at the elements of computing. And the last time I took time to explain all about the input elements. You remember these drawings from the first part of the elements of the computing system, and we said that the elements of computing at junior secondary school, we normally call it the three computing stages. So there is process, there is storage there is input, and we've got what we call the output on the other side of computing. And this is what we call the element of computing. And I talked a lot about the input devices. Talked about the keyboard, the types of pointing devices like mouse, joystick, stylus pen, and the others. Of course, the third part was inclusive. From there, I had to take time to talk about the readers, automatic input devices, in the category of OCR, OMR, or others, which we call the automatic input devices. But today I want just to dwell a lot on the middle part there, where it is saying process and the storage. I'll mention a few things about storage devices. This is because I've done the video about storage devices and it's already on this channel. If you need anything about storage devices, just go back and look for the video talking about the storage devices. But today I want to talk first about the processing. Processing. It's a very important stage in the elements of computing. What simply means processing, the process of converting raw facts or data into meaningful information. And the device responsible for that, we call it the processor. The processor is actually what we call the brain of the computer. This is the device which is responsible for data processing. And there are various examples of processors on the market. We can talk of i9, i8, i7 to i1. These are examples of processors. Previously, we used to have those processors like Pentium D, Pentium 4, Pentium 3, Pentium 2, Pentium 1. There also used to be those dual-core processors like zero-run processors. They also count in the category of the processor. But the very important thing to remember is that when we say a processor, we're talking about the brain of the computer. Each and every processor that you're going to come across is simply what we call the brain of the computer. So, why these numbers? What you need to know is the bigger the number, the faster and the better the processor. So we would say that the i9 is far much better than the i6. It's far much better than the i1. And all the i-series class of processors are much better, far much better than the Pentium class. That is for sure. And every time you're trying to shop for a computer, try to shop for something which is with a newer processor. And the bigger the number in this category, the better the processor. So this processor we're trying to talk about is divided into two components, compartments. Let's say this is the processor or microprocessor. I would just say the brain to reinforce learning. One side we call it the control unit, and the other side we call it the arithmetic logic unit. So the way the processor works, any data coming from input going to the computer system is supposed to go to the control unit. And the control unit receives and stores data in the form of first in, first out. And if it receives a lot of data going to the computer system, some parts of data are going to be stored in storage spaces we call the registers. So the first in, first out principle works in this sense. Let's say this part is the control unit. Then there is the ALU. In the ALU, that is where data processing takes place. The control unit controls what is going for processing in the ALU. So if there is an activity going on in the ALU, the data which is awaiting processing will be stored in these storage spaces on the side of the ALU. And these, we call them the registers. So registers are those storage spaces which stores data temporarily as it is awaiting to go for processing. And that is if the ALU is so very busy. And that data will be stored in those storage spaces. So for now, the things that are coming out is that one, the processor is the brain of the computer. And it is divided into two compartments. One is the control unit, the other part is the arithmetic logic unit. And the brain of the computer or the processor work in the fashion we call the first in, first out. The more data goes into the system, the more the processor will try to detain some data until the other type of data which is on the other side has finished processing. When the data is finished processing, that's when it will be sent out of the ALU, and the next data in the first register there will go into the system. And that's the fashion that computer science works on that cycle through and through until you receive the data that you sent for processing. So there is the control unit, there is the ALU. Then inside the processor, we've got those temporal storage spaces of data which we call the registers. I hope that has made some sense. So, the speed of the computer, sorry for that, the speed of the computer or microprocessor or the processor, nowadays it's measured in gigahertz. That is billions per second. Billion seconds per second. When you say billions, it's a situation whereby I'm trying to count 1, 2. As I count 1 before going to 2, the CPU, the processor would have counted almost a billion times. When I'm saying 1, the CPU has gone up to 1 billion times. And this is evident because, for instance, if I try to open Microsoft Word on this computer, let me say Microsoft Word. The way a computer operates is it's amazing, and you think it's just working automatic. Let me type a letter A. So no sooner I press A than it appears in my Word document, and it appears as if it has come straight from the keyboard into Microsoft Word. That is wrong. It does not simply come from the keyboard straight to Microsoft Word. It comes from the keyboard, which is an input device. And it will go first into the control unit. Then it will go to the ALU. And the ALU interprets that this character is A. That's when it will come back out of the ALUs back to the control unit. And then the control unit will send that information to RAM and into your document for displaying. It appears as if it's happening so automatic because of the same speed I'm talking about. It's billions per second. every transaction of computing takes place, every transaction of processing takes place in this fashion before it can be displayed on the screen or your monitor. All these activities are supposed to have taken place. So basically that is the theory of computing when it comes to a processor. It is a very, very important device, and that you should understand and know the stages of processing as a student of computer studies. Then, apart from processing, we've got what we call storage. I'm not going to talk a lot about storage, but one thing that you need to understand is there are types of storage that we call secondary storage. There are secondary and there is primary storage. When we talk about secondary storage, we're talking about those devices which can store information permanently. By permanent, we mean that whether it is connected to the computer or not, it can still retain the information. So in this category of secondary storage, we can say it is a read-only memory. That's where possibly ROM comes in, because it's able to retain data even if power is disturbed. So some of the examples, this is where we're going to see the hard disk drive, the solid state drives. This is where we're going to see the flash disks and all the optical disks like the CDs and the DVDs. They fall in this category because they are able to retain information, whether connected to a computer or not. That you should put in memory. They are secondary storage. They store information permanently. Then we've got what we call primary memory. Primary memory, the dominated type of memory there, it is RAM, which is random access memory. So primary memory is RAM. And the others, they can call it main memory. And this memory is volatile. It is volatile. I'll explain the meaning for that. And we also call it the temporal memory. This is the type of memory which is able to store the programs when the programs are running currently. As the program is running on a computer, it is stored in RAM. And the RAM or primary memory can be interchanged with these other names without conflict. But the most important thing about RAM, you need to know that it is volatile. When we say RAM is volatile, we simply mean that the data contents of memory are lost when power is disturbed. It can only remember as long as the computer is receiving power. If the data was not saved or sent to secondary storage devices, then that data is going to be lost. So always try to remember this. It is volatile because it loses its memory contents when power is disturbed. The other types of memory which can lose its memory contents when power is disturbed, or in short, the other volatile types of memory apart from RAM, we can include what we call the cache memory, and we can include the registers. The registers, the one which are found in the control unit or in the microprocessor, which stores the information temporarily as it is awaiting processing. They are also volatile. The cache memory is also volatile. So you will need to understand that these types of memory are volatile. They lose information when power is disturbed. As for today, I'm going to end the video right here. Hopefully you've understood. Please subscribe to our channel to see more of these videos, and see you next time.